Let's see, we'll do this. Okay, there's that. Then I got to go to this and do this. So the funniest thing, I hit the wrong thing on my Target order, and I got these little baby cans of Coke Zero instead of my regular cans, and I look like I have gigantic hands probably because I was like, what happened to my soda?
It's like I guess it's maybe like you're in Toy Story a little bit.
I'm so disappointed. I got mini cans because I was messing around trying to find Cherry Coke Zero on the app, and then I was scrolled down too far, and I got away from a normal order, and yeah, I ended up with this cute little box, and I'm like, why is the box so small? Then I looked at the cans, like, why are my little cans so small? So I got 5 boxes of these little big cans.
Oh, that's a lot to go through.
Oh, I go through them quick. It's been a couple of days with the 2025 packages being released. I just
Yeah.
it's just nonstop
We'll
typing
we'll
away.
be reaching out about Princess again soon.
It's been
And
wild.
I know it's and did you I'm sure you saw, but the water park.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah. Oh,
we've
yeah.
never been to all the times we've gone, we've never been to a water park, and I'm like, this will convince me. I will
Well,
go.
and that's a conversation we're having over on the Discord, which I'm going to be plugging here during the show when we do it here in a second. But so Paige used to go all the time to the water parks because they were free. Because back when she was young, we had that ultimate park hopper
Mhm.
ticket where like you just did whatever you wanted. Like you could go Disney Quest, park, water parks, whatever you want to do. But then when Mallory, she's 16, so when she came around, it was the Magic Your Way tickets, right? So you had to pay extra if you wanted to add water parks. Guess what? Mallory's never been to a water park
Yeah,
ever, but she might get to go now. So I told
I
her,
hope
that.
so.
Guess what? We're gonna
And
take.
I grew up going to Wisconsin Dells every year. And so I am like water parks are my favorite thing. And but just it's hard to justify it when you paid the price for everything
Yeah,
else.
I know because you already because like with an annual pass, like you have so much you
Mhm.
already paid for to do. That's exactly how we saw it. Like we'd stay, like Coronado. It's got a cool pool, or Riverside, wherever. Anyway, yeah. Then speaking of the Dells, we stayed at Mallory cheered at Kalahari one time. That was so cool. But
That's such a good one. Yeah.
so many places up there. Oh my!
Yeah.
And Moose Jaw Pizza.
Right.
Holy
Yes.
cow!
Well, I like their beer bread too because
Oh,
it's one of the appetizers. But that's yeah, we do moose jaw's like a staple that
oh
we
man!
always do. We've been staying at the Wilderness like in most recent.
So yeah, we had taco pizza at Moose Jaw. That was rocking because we love taco pizza. Obviously, I love tacos. I love Mexican and everything. But and then we ate at a place. Oh, was it Phil's or something? Everything comes out on a train.
Buffalo Phil's or something, I think. Yeah.
Yes, that place was awesome too.
Did
Oh
you eat at
man.
Paul Bunyan's though?
I
Like
don't
that?
think so because we're only there for like 2 nights for the
Yeah.
cheerleading competition. But I love the little place. Everything came out on a train. It was so cute.
Yeah.
They had good food too. But I was like, everything's coming out on a train. Like this is the coolest place in the history of the world. Disney needs a place like that. All right, so here we go. We will get cracking. What number is this? Can't read my own writing. 2446. All right. Oh, let me hit this over here. Too many windows. Yep. All right, here we go. Monday is not a holiday, I don't think. No. No, let's hit Siri. All right. Welcome to episode 2446 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Monday to you. Hope you had a great weekend. And, well, it's time to head back to work and school here in early March, but not too bad. We got to do this to pay for our Disney vacations, and we're in the spring here almost. I mean, it's not officially spring, but hey, we're getting there. So we're gonna have a good time talking about a very recent trip. Runners, get ready. We're going to talk about Princess last weekend, but if you're not a runner, no worries. Hang with us. There's plenty of stuff outside of lacing up the sneakers, and we're not going to talk about shin splints or blisters or anything like that. We're going to talk about great weather for once at a race weekend. I mean, that's few and far between down at Walt Disney World over the past few years. So we're having a great time headed up to Chicagoland with our good friend Marci. Marci, happy Monday. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Happy Monday. I am so excited. I'm probably looking forward to this almost as much as Princess Weekend. It gave me something excited to come home for.
Oh my gosh. I can give you a bell right off the top for that. You just made my week. That's awesome. So I got to tell you, as a native Chicagoan, I guess that is. I don't know. Immediately, I need Portillo's. I think. Dreaming of a Chicago dog, but as we're recording, I know that there's a famous weatherman that is retiring this week that has flooded my social media because, of course, Paige is up there, so I kind of follow a lot of stuff up there. Tom Skilling.
Yeah, I know the name.
Okay, so but you're not a big fan of his or something like that. But apparently, he is a legend in Chicago. That is he's retired, and that's all I see on social media.
I grew up in Central Illinois, so we've only been in Chicago for about 7 years, and I just follow the apps, so we don't have cable, so I don't know.
Okay, you see the age gap between us, right? I'm the old dude who sits down at 9:00 and watches my weatherman, and he tells me, even though I've seen on the app 72 times what the weather's going to be for the next 7 days during the day. But I just got to back it up with my guy Glenn Zimmerman or whoever's on Channel 2 here in St. Louis. Okay, never mind. But apparently this guy's a legend because people are losing their stuff over their weatherman retiring. I guess he's been on the air up there for 30 years or something. So it must be a big thing. But
it's like the voice of the Cardinals and stuff. Like if you lose anybody that you hear all the time, it's comforting and it'd be sad. Like if Mayor Buddy Dyer ever goes away from the monorail at MCO, I don't know what I'll do.
I know because you wouldn't have an official welcome, right? You wouldn't officially be on the first monorail ride. I mean, do you consider that your first ride of the trip?
That's how I know I'm in Florida. We've flown into Tampa a couple of times, and I'm like, this is not for me.
Yeah, Scott does that sometimes. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not the right place. Anyway, let's talk about, before we get into the trip to Princess last weekend and kind of dive into the details of everything you did down there, because you guys crammed a ton in there besides the running, but we'll talk about the races too. Give us a little history with your background in the Disney fandom. So how did it all start for you?
Yeah, well, I grew up, kind of in the renaissance of the Disney movies. So Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, so I always liked it. We grew up going to Wisconsin Dells every year. So I actually didn't go to Disney for the first time until 2011 after I'd graduated from veterinary school. And we had a friend from undergrad who was on her 4th year of the college program. So she got me and my husband in for free, and I was hooked. And it was it was so immersive. I had been to a Six Flags, and this was I just had this overwhelming feeling of wanting to touch everything and you take it all in. And so around that time, some friends were getting into running, and I saw that Disney had races. And so our next trip was actually February of 2013 for the Princess Half Marathon. And it was going to be a once in a lifetime. I bought the purse.
We're just going to go the one time. We're going to do it right because we're never going to come back. We got to do it. We got to do it right this time.
Yeah. And it completely snowballed from there, where we have an annual pass. We go 3-4 times a year. I sometimes can tack it on for work things. So we just love it. And it's not really a hard sell. My husband is not a runner, but it's not a hard sell to get out of Chicago. Typically, this year's an exception. But not a hard sell to get out of Chicago in February to go down for the race.
Let me ask you about that first time you went down, though, because your story sounds very similar to mine, right? Because I grew up, we only went to Six Flags. We never had the means to go to really on vacation as a kid. We only went once, just down to spring training, because my dad caught a major league pitcher and he paid for our family to go down one time. Passed through the Magic Kingdom a half a day. It rained, didn't stay on site or anything like that. We just bought a day ticket. And I just remember being in there and just how it's same thing. It was so themed. I was like a 5th grader, but I mean, it was just it was so different than what I had experienced at Six Flags, just southwest of St. Louis. Six Flags had roller coasters and rides, and it was a step up from our county fair, but it was just a different level. When we went into the Magic Kingdom, I remember the hat shop, it stuck with me. The hat shop it wasn't just selling hats, but the whole store, had like trees and vines and stuff, like the whole like store told a story. It was incredible. I just remember coming home, like it was more than a hat shop. It was just an environment. Do you remember anything from that very first trip that was like unique or weird that this really sticks with you from that time that made you really kind of fall in love with the place?
Well, you said weird, so I'll go with
I
weird.
like that kind of stuff because as Disney fans, I think we all kind of have that. Like, why does that stick with me? But it's kind of important to our story.
I just remember being on Pirates and like I'm not kidding you. I know I didn't do this, but I wanted to touch the water. Like I wanted to see how deep it was. I wanted to see how the track was going. And I was just fascinated by all of that. And then every Small World and Haunted Mansion, just I was captivated by all of the details. But I just remember distinctly being like, I want to touch this water. And it's so gross. I don't know why, but I did.
It's okay to want to touch it, just don't drink it. Maybe not touch it either, but it's one of the two. Probably touch it rather than drink it. So okay, so you mentioned in your notes though, because sometimes I ask this question, sometimes I don't. If you could bring something back, and I got to give you this because you did mention this in your notes. The two things you said you bring back are like near and dear to my heart. Oh my gosh, you're singing my song. So just go ahead and share with our audience because it just does me so happy to hear these two things.
It's the big debate in our household because, like, without a doubt, I'd bring back the Osborne lights. Even if, and I hate to say this out loud, but if they charged for it and set up a structure somewhere else, I would go.
I would too.
I would do it. I have a video that I keep on my phone from the last time we got to visit it when the year it was closed down, like dancing in the street to like Feliz Navidad and just closing it down as managers are like walking us through. So not a problem. Like I would without a doubt bring that back. But the other thing is Ample Hills on the boardwalk. And that edges it out slightly because like that's year round. So you could do that, but we miss it so much. We miss that ice cream so much.
I don't know what they had ooey gooey butter cake ice cream, which was, as a St. Louis, and that's kind of our jam. That and some toasted ravioli, and we're set. That's kind of our claim to fame. But I loved it. I know we have the ice cream shop still on the boardwalk, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not. It's ice cream, and I eat it every time, because I'm not gonna pass up ice cream. But Ample Hills, man, I don't know what it was. It was just like, so good. Now, let me ask you this, though. As a runner, did you ever get an opportunity to run through the Osborne lights over a wine and dine?
No, I haven't done wine and dine yet.
Oh my gosh, that was an experience, man. That was so cool back then.
I can only imagine.
That was one of the highlights. Because again, that was back when it was obviously, I guess it was a night race.
At night.
But yeah, because because in the morning it's still dark. But yeah, that was back because those were night races back then. Oh man, I miss wine and dine being a night race, but that's another story for another day. All right, let's talk about your trip. So you were down last weekend. So tell us how this trip came together, where you stayed. You went with your husband, but you had some other friends you were obviously meeting up and hanging out with. So give us some background on all that.
Yeah, this is my 11th Princess. I've done it every year since 2013. And of course, 2021, they took a year off.
Yep.
And so I'm perfect for the challenge, not for the half marathon, but for the 10K and the half together. And it has evolved so much. It started out as just me and my husband, and now it's friends and family and different people going different way. But we sort of have our routine, and we're like, this is where we'll be. And people can join us and go their own ways as they want to. So the main planning party was my husband and I, and we book almost as soon as packages come out. We really like Pop Century for race weekends because we are familiar with it. I know the bus route. I know like how to get things done. So that's where we stayed. I prefer the 50s buildings, but we were in the 70s this time. And so then over the years, some friends have started adding on, and a good chunk of us stayed at Pop Century, including my mom and dad. And then we had two friends that were at the Waldorf Astoria and two friends at the Riviera.
The fancy friends, we call it.
Yeah. And that was our friends that the Riviera, they just bought into DVC. So this was their first stay there. So they were really excited.
Very nice. So we're like, we'll meet you at Primo Piatto. Have a Med and Croak ready for me when I get there. That's what I'd tell your friends. No, so speaking of Pop Century for race weekends, I was talking with a guest a couple of days ago over at the Magic for Less. I always debrief some of another runner that's a lizard. And we were talking about, I don't know if it was, yeah, they were just getting back from Princess. And they said they strayed away from Pop Century for Princess, and they stayed, I think, at a moderate. I can't remember. Maybe it was I think it was deluxe. I think it was like beach or yacht.
Ooh.
And he said, he's like, yeah, it was nice. Like it was really nice to stay at a deluxe. He's like, however, for a race weekend, I'm going back to Pop for marathon weekend next year because he said I feel more of a camaraderie with runners at Pop Century for some reason. He's like, I just feel like the runners are there. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Because sometimes I stray and I go to Coronado. Like my two jams are like Pop Century and Coronado for race weekends. I just kind of like both. But yeah, I when he said that, I never kind of put two and two together. But Pop Century, it seems like runners do flock there because it's a value. It's kind of the nicest value, I think, kind of just kind of fits everybody's needs. Got the Skyliner, got good transportation, but it seems like runners kind of that's their sweet spot for a race weekend.
Yeah, and the theming, it's just it's loud and in your face, which I kind of feel like runners are, and so that I love that energy. Like I just love it, and I never caught her name, but the woman that runs the bus stop is about the most positive and energetic person you could ever meet. Like when I never had this happen, but when we got off the bus, coming back, they were clapping for us. They had buttons out for us. They were cheering. Everyone was clapping. It was incredible. And so like to have that amount of energy. And the other thing is, like, I want to save the moderates and deluxes for when I'm not running, because when I run these races, we're up so early. Any bed is comfortable.
Sure.
I need a nicer bed. So I like to save those for different trips.
That's a good point. But see, here's that too. And like when I go solo for these race weekends, I try not to make it too fancy because I don't want to catch, too much from back home. But hey, why you staying at Beach Club? No, I'm just at Pop Century. I'm just at a value,
The only thing that Pop Century is missing and the values, you don't have the hot tub. So if you need that as part of your recovery routine, that would be the only like major consideration.
Good point. Just kind of puts me to sleep, but
yeah.
What you gotta do. All right, so let's talk about your arrival. You guys get there. You stayed your first night. Looks like offsite at Flamingo Crossing. So tell me about that because I'm unfamiliar with that.
So we got in late Wednesday night. So rather than spend a night at Disney hotels, we stayed at Flamingo Crossing, which is one of the newer developments, and it's just outside of the gates that are near Animal Kingdom and Coronado. And we've stayed there quite a bit. It's awesome. There's a Target. There's lots of good hotels that have breakfast, in the morning. There's Starbucks. And I have found running routes all around because they're all developing townhomes. And I think there's even like a convenient care or emergency room around there. I think there's some new cast member housing that they've put out there. So it's really developing. And it is like 2 stoplights from being on property. So we were within the 45 miles that you have to do the virtual queue for the merchandise and everything. So we were there, and so we decided to start the day Thursday at Animal Kingdom because we had just seen that the baby elephant went on stage. So we wanted to get a safari in, and we thought that'd be our only trip to Animal Kingdom. So it was really convenient and very easy.
And you're a veterinarian by trade, correct? So,
yes.
I mean, how cool is that? You could see a little baby. I mean, I'm sure you don't have many patients that are elephants.
No, I don't. Some of them are very big, though.
What is the craziest animal you've ever treated up in your area?
Oh, I mean, treated. I only work on dogs and cats, but it's cool.
In Chicago, I'm in St. Louis, and so I got to give a hard time to Chicago. And sometimes, I mean, what do Chicagoans at?
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the dogs though, they're like 140, 150 pounds.
Holy cow! Oh my gosh.
But yeah, but in school, you get the tigers and you get some of the other wilder things.
Holy cow. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, Mizzou, that is our mascot. So there you go. It's good to know. If we ever have we don't have a live one. LSU does though. So they may be calling. We have a lot of LSU fans. So let's talk about, okay. Now you hit the word that I got to get to. We'll talk about Animal Kingdom in a second, but that virtual queue thing, does that still, because you've done so many of these races, right? You're a veteran to this. the 45-mile radius. You got to check in for the virtual queue to get the official Run Disney merchandise. You don't have to do it for everything, or you don't have to do it to get your bibs and stuff like that if you're unfamiliar with how this works. But you do have to check in if you want to get the official Run Disney merchandise, which is like the jackets and the the sweatshirts and stuff that is, will have the Princess Half Marathon, I Did It stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How was the expo? How was the experience with the virtual queue? Let's talk expo real quick, and then we'll go back to day one at Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, this was probably my least favorite expo experience.
I just hate that. I gotta be honest, because I'm not a shopper. I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the merchandise. I really want to make sure I get an ornament. And Anna and Elsa are my favorite characters, and they were the challenge this year. So I was like, I really like. It's important to me that we get some of that merchandise. And so I said the only way I could do that is to enter the queue. And last year our queue number was pretty late, so we kind of made our plans based on that. And I think we had number like 48 or something like that. So we got called about 90 minutes after it opened. And so we timed it. So we've kind of finished up Animal Kingdom, just a couple of things that we wanted to do. And so we're like, well, we'll get over there. We'll get our bib. And I've never had this happen before, but there was a line to get the bibs, which was very confusing to me because
I had that last time at Marathon Weekend. I
waited
like all the way around the baseball field to get my bib. It was crazy. Yeah.
Well, I don't understand why it exists, because when you go in there's going to be lines for where your bib is picked
number set. Yep, I know. 100%.
So then, of course, my virtual queue gets called during that time. You have an hour.
Yep.
So we've already committed to this line. So then we go to the virtual queue line, and then that secret line room in there is half full.
The warm-up room for the cheerleaders. Yeah, that's then you're saying, isn't a virtual queue supposed to eliminate lines? That's what I always say. Nope, it just puts you in the big room. Yeah.
And as we were passing, because we went to the bibs, which is in one building, and then you pass where the expo and like the t-shirt pickup is, that line was wrapped clear around, and I just had to hope that by the time we got done with the merchandise, that line would be gone, and it was. So we lucked out with that part of it. But even being in the Disney merchandise 90 minutes after, pretty much everything we wanted was still there, except for the Anna and Elsa tank top in my size, which I just couldn't believe. And so, but I found one on a mannequin, and they very kindly let me buy it off the mannequin. So
this mannequin doesn't need this.
Yeah. But I had to stand next to it, and of course they had to like bring a shirt over, because they're like, who knows what people would take pictures of and all this.
Oh my gosh.
There's a whole thing.
If it was something, I'd be like, this mannequin's about to be naked.
Yeah. So it's like a whole thing. But the expos are tough. It's such because you're conflicted, right? Like, I don't want to wait in all these lines, but I do want the most opportunities to buy the merchandise. And so there's like a tension there that I don't know how to solve.
I know. I don't know what they can do. And the thing is, it's all, and I don't want to get into this because it's the same thing every race weekend. It's those people that go in there and soak up everything right off the bat. It just drives me wild. And then go to eBay, and it's on, by noon, it's all on eBay for inflated prices.
Mm-hmm.
They got to fix that. They got to give the runners that have bibs first shot at just getting one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, not to buy 20 things to go resell, but like, if you want a jacket, you want an ornament, you get a shot to get one of each thing, like, somehow. Like,
I would love it if they would let us pre-order and then put the pickup where the t-shirts are or something. Cause like, I know they want to drive people to the expo. Like that's how they're making money from exhibitors, but like, there's gotta be a way to do this to some of that stuff that we know, like the jackets and the ornaments, like people want those. And then you have a better idea of how much to make so that you don't overproduce things.
Right. I haven't gotten a dopey jacket the last 2 years, and I mean, like, I run that and I train for that the entire year. You know what I'm saying? Like, I put in a ton of miles. Like, I feel like I've done the work to be able to earn a jacket, and I haven't had the opportunity to get one for 2 years.
You're guaranteed to be there the first day of the expo. I feel bad for some people that maybe can't come in. They're doing the half marathon and they can't come in until the day before. I mean, it's possible they won't see any of the merchandise that they would like.
Right. Okay. I just bumped the computer, and I've never done this before, but I stopped the recording right there. So hang tight. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I did that. It's okay because I can save it here and we just pick back up.
That makes your editing job harder.
It does. I can't believe I did that. I bumped the computer. Let's see. I've never done this before in 2000 some shows. Let's see here. That's no big deal. You just gotta remember what we're talking about. We're talking about the jackets. 2446. Part 1. So that was 20 minutes. Oh my gosh. I got fired up about the stupid jackets. Man, got me going there. Okay, here we go. So I'll wrap up that point so that kind of some continuity. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I just feel though, if you put in the time, and I feel like I trained for 2 years, that I put in the miles, that I should have the opportunity to at least get one jacket. I've earned that opportunity. Everybody should have that opportunity. So you think maybe you should be able to pre-order or something along those lines?
Yeah, I think pre-ordering or just having access a little, or holding some merchandise back, right? Like we put some of it out the first day, put some of it out the second day, just to make it a little more fair.
Agreed. Okay, so you guys went to Animal Kingdom, knocked out a few things, got to see the new baby elephant. Cutest pie, right? I saw it on Instagram, but I'm sure in person it's absolutely cute, right?
It was really cute, and it was one of the best safaris we'd been on, and we do this one a lot. That's like my favorite attraction at Animal Kingdom. And the animals were active. It was cooler weather, and like there at one point there was 2 ostriches that ran right in front of our vehicle, and then 3 rhinos came right after them. And I've stopped for giraffes before, but we had never stopped in that area for ostriches and rhinos, so that was really, really neat.
Awesome. Now you wrapped up the day. So this was kind of my like nightmare day of an Animal Kingdom, because you went to the expo. You also went to Disney Springs and did some shopping. You also went to Publix, but you didn't get a pub sub, I don't think.
No.
That's the only reason I would go to Publix, but you got some groceries. So did everything kind of go smooth? You still got to bed rather early to get ready for the races.
Yeah, like I said, we kind of have our routines. We love the boathouse. I love sitting out on the water, and we kind of have our, the 5K is just a fun run. And so we like to split the burger and have a couple of drinks that we like. And Publix is nice because then I can get all the fuel that we need for the week. And we had friends coming in, but they're all teachers. So they couldn't take much time off school. So we got their groceries as well, and then organized the room. And I have a very strict, my friends make fun of me, but they call it the curfew, but we're in bed and relaxing by 7:30. Like that's not negotiable.
I love that, because I try and I fail, but that's good on you. And shout out to all of our teachers who try to make these race weekends, because it is hard. It can be done, but you got to be creative in, first of all, how you approach your administrators, how you tell them that you're going to be out. You got to be creative in that, and how you hustle back, because a lot of times you're leaving on Sunday and still teaching school on Monday. I don't know if your friends had to do that.
That's what they did.
It's a big commitment. Yeah, it's hard. Shout out to them. That's awesome. All right, so 5K day. That's Friday, because you did all the races on the. I don't know if we mentioned that. So up early. Probably 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I set my phone alarm. I set a wake up call to the room. So I always like having Mickey, wake me up. But then get on the bus, and they started the buses early at Pop. So they were going 15, 20 minutes early, but I think a lot of runners, as you mentioned earlier, stay there. So I think there's a lot of people. The bus system was flawless. We had 0 problems this year, which was incredible. And that 5K race, I love how approachable it is. I love how families do it. They interviewed what they think is the youngest Run Disney runner, possibly, because her birthday was the day before she was just turned 5, because that's how old you have to be for the 5K. So it's really cool.
So you've been there many times. John Pelkey, Carissa, Riley out there in the crowds there, getting the stories. Sometimes they're heartfelt, sometimes they're hilarious. Maybe a few words about the announcing team that always gets us excited and ready in those moments while we're just kind of hanging out in the crowds.
Yeah, I mean, I run a lot of races, and there are just some things that obviously Disney does so much better. Like the entertainment is incredible, and the team and the production. I don't know if people have been listening to Carissa and John's podcast,
Mhm.
but
Yep.
they talk a lot about the background
Right.
of it, and it's incredible. They have to their day starts so much earlier than ours, and they bring so much energy and are encouraging, and I can't imagine keeping that up for as long as they do. It brings a smile to my face every time. And that, I mean, Disney does a lot of things. Their volunteers, their cast members are incredible. They really spoil you. Their porta potties and their bag check. I've never experienced anything as seamless as those things in races.
You know you're a runner when you're excited about porta potties. That's one of our characteristics. You gotta love it
Mhm.
for that. But yeah, if you want to check out John and Chris's show, it's 3, 2, 1 Go, the podcast. So check it out on all the places. All right, so real quick, give us the 5K. Any special character encounters? Any excitement on the course? Did you guys just kind of have a good time with your friends that like just walk, run?
I was the only one that did the 5K.
Okay.
So I love that one because it's so much in the parks. And I love the when I was in the first corral, so it was still dark when I was going through, and so the torches are all lit up and back and the lights on all the buildings, so it just was neat. I think I was really sad because one of my friends, her favorite character are the mice from Cinderella that do all the sewing.
Oh, that's
And
Ricky's favorite characters, Jacques and somebody.
oh, Gus and Jet.
Is that not who that is? Is that
No,
right?
it's one of the girl ones that does like
Oh,
the
okay, I don't
sewing
know.
and
See, I don't
everything.
watch movies. I just know I got one in a Happy Meal toy one time, and she got
Yeah.
excited. So
So they had Cinderella the Prince and one of the mice there, and I was
okay.
like, "Oh, I wish she was running this one, but she was running the 10K the next day." So they had a few character stops, but then what was really neat, this was my first time doing one of the races since they opened up the new areas in Epcot. So it was really windy. Like it
Uh-huh.
was
Yep.
but really cool photo. I mean, they probably had 3, maybe 4 character stops, but then they had places you could stop and take photos like with PhotoPass photographers of places around Epcot, and there were so many of them, and they had some really neat shots that I had never had before. So it's just that one's really fun. So it took it pretty easy that day, and it was really cool.
Yeah, the 5K is fun just because there's really no stress. There's no sweeping. I feel like Dora the Explorer, sweeper, sweeping. Nothing like that. And the good news is, like, you get done and you're still back, and you can shower, and you can. I mean, if you want to go to a theme park, you can get there for rope drop. You can still get breakfast probably before, and still
Mhm.
make rope drop if you want. I mean, it's so stress free, and it just kicks off the weekend in a good way. Now, notice here you were meeting up with your friends. You mentioned that were new DVC. It looks like over at the Riv Primo Piatto for breakfast. I mean, you already got a 5K under your belt. Going to Primo Piatto for breakfast. Looks like it's going to be a great day. So give us some highlights for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that was really tasty. It's just a good place to go.
Yeah.
And it's such a nice skyline. The Skyliner is just such a great ride. And then I think that was the day that we then met everyone at Epcot, I think is what we
Yeah.
did that
Looks like
day.
it, yeah.
It's all blurring now. And we did like Living with the Land, which is a must do for me. And then we went over to Soren and we kind of got fooled. They said the wait, I think we just hit the line right as the time was going up. But these are when you have friends around, the lines really didn't matter
It's
to
true. You're
us.
just hanging out. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was super fun. And then our friends are very new DVC members. And so they didn't know about the lounge, but we had been up there with other friends. And so we were able to kind of talk to them about what that was. And they took us all up there,
Yeah.
which was also really cool to sit and relax and have. I mean, they had all kinds the freestyle Coke machines
Yes.
were there and snacks. So that was nice. And then a bunch of them went and did Guardians of the Galaxy. I stayed with everyone's stuff. I've done Guardians. I do fine with it, but I just wasn't going to risk it the day before a race.
Smart. Yeah. It's like, do I need to? Not really. Not really. And
Yeah.
yeah, someone has to guard the stuff while everybody else is doing Guardians. I would have been with you. I mean, no, I can't do it, but it's fine.
So then I went back my husband and I went, and our other tradition, like I'm very set in my ways.
I
So
love that because I am more set in my ways than anybody I know in the history of the world. Like the same
this
thing.
might be a bit much, Mike. I don't know. So we
Like,
take the Skyliner back, and then before the 10K, I always eat dinner at Art of Animation in the Lion King section.
now
So
that's very specific. I mean, if you said landscape of flavors, I'd have been
yeah,
like, "Oh, okay, but I mean, in the Lion King
yeah.
section, I like it, man. That is very specific.
And when you go at like 4 or something, there's really not that much of a line. So that's really nice too. And it's very quiet. Although they were setting up for a birthday party next to us.
You're like,
Um,
sorry, you can't have your party here, man. This is my tradition.
yeah. So we
Again,
left before the party started. And then my friends that came in, they all went to the expo. So they didn't get to the expo until it would have been 4 or 5 that evening. And I think they were all still able to buy most of the merchandise they wanted. So there still was items left that they were excited about. And then they all texted me by the time they were back at 7:15 and said they made curfew so that we could all go to bed at the same time.
you put an Apple tag on them or what are those? The air tag. Just make sure everybody can track them. Make sure you're in bed. That's awesome. Okay, so but I'm seeing here in the notes that discipline pays off. Curfews, eating at the right times in the right places in the Lion King section, it does pay off because on the 10K day, and the weather was great, by the way, this weekend. I mean, right?
Yes.
It was like perfect for runners. I mean,
the weather was the most perfect I had ever seen it. It was in the high 40s, low 50s at the start of each of the races. But then during the day with the sunshine, it got up to the mid 70s. So it was just beautiful. I mean, you could not have asked for better weather at all. And so how I usually structure these races is I really want to try to do a personal best in the 10K. And then I call the half marathon my victory lap. And so and one of my friends was in the A corral with me, which was really awesome because I could do a warm up. She could hold our spot. And she was going to stop for characters and had a beautiful Jasmine costume on. So it was fun to have someone to talk to. That's the first time I've had friends run the 10K with me. And so we all approached it a little differently. So I went out for the PR and was a little devastated because the unofficial time said I got it by a second, but then the official time rounded it up a second. So tied my previous PR. But these are literally the worst finish line photos I have ever gotten.
You got to embrace that though. Like sometimes they're so bad, good. That's what
you can tell that I had nothing left. And you can see when you're rounding the corner to the finish, I have this look on my face like, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah, exactly. Like Panic in the Disco, man.
Yeah.
Panic in the Shoot.
They're very funny. And then one of my other friends, it was, I think maybe only his second 10K or so, and he got a massive PR. And then the 2 remaining friends decided to run together. And at every photo, they didn't stop for characters, but every time they saw a photographer, they did a different pose or something. And so it was really fun to see everybody's photos coming in. And I like this course, but I really prefer the previous 10K course, which is I think what you all had on marathon weekend. Because this one's 3.5 miles out on the roads, and then you barely dip into Hollywood Studios, and then you do boardwalk and everything. Where previously we would do a couple miles on the road, and then you get into World Showcase, boardwalk, and come back in. So I like the course, but I definitely prefer the other one.
Well, it's a fast course. I can tell you looking at your time. I mean, because I look at the same thing. Like the 5K, I don't really worry about. The 10K is the race where I do try to give everything I got because I love the philosophy. To me, and I'm not a runner at all, but the way I see it in my mind's eye is the 10K is almost like a controlled sprint for as long as it's painful, but you can hold it for as long. You're dying at the end, but you can go almost as hard as you can until you can't. But I mean, a half marathon, you can't do that. You got to pace yourself. In a marathon, you just got to help you. You just try to get to the finish line. It doesn't matter, whatever it takes. But I'm with you. That's the race I try to give everything I got because I know it's going to be for now, my time isn't nowhere near yours. But for me, it's oh my God, if I can just do this for 50 minutes, and just go as hard as I can, 52, 55, as I get older, it gets higher. But it's one of those things I just give it everything I got, and that's my fun race. And then the half marathon, I try to give what I got left. But yeah, I mean, you really got, I mean, you got up there and placed. I mean, in your, in the women's field and in your age group, and the Lizards did great. I mean, we had one of the Buckley boys, I think Nathan, I think he came in like third overall, like or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Holy, and I think the Bachelor won the race or something like that.
Yeah,
He's from St. Louis.
They interviewed someone from St. Louis. Yep.
I saw him on the news. I'm like, oh my God, I guess he's the Bachelor, because I saw the Bachelor won, and they're like, this guy from St. Louis won. So I'm like, 2 and 2 together. The Bachelor's from St. Louis. But anyway, congratulations on your PR and congratulations on placing. That is wild.
Yeah.
Well, how do you celebrate the rest of it? I'd be on like a total runner's high, getting a PR, flying through the course. Holy smoke.
It was like up on a high. And then when I found out I tied my previous PR, I had to have a moment of like, okay, this is fine.
No, I mean, you kidding me with that time? Come on now. Yeah, you can't be sad.
I know. Man. But then my mind starts going like, well, should I try to PR in the half marathon? We went to
have runner's-itis.
I know. So we went to Ale and Compass for breakfast, my husband and I, while everybody else, because everyone else ran the 10K. Of course, they were used to running the half. So they were so excited. They got back just exactly how you said for the 5K. They got ready and they didn't quite rope. They weren't able to quite rope drop, but they were able to hit the day hard because most of them were going to be going home on Sunday. And so I was like, I cannot keep up with them because I'm doing the race tomorrow and then I'm doing yoga on Monday. So we did a slower down breakfast, and that's where I started I got a Post-it note out and was like writing down times. And then I was like, I just can't, I'm too tired. And so throughout the day, the race did catch up with me. Like, I don't think I ate enough afterwards. And so I got really tired and worn down. So my husband and I took that day very easy and met everyone at Hollywood Studios while they had Genie Plus, and they did just about everything I think they said you could do. Cause Rock and Roller Coaster's down. But they did everything else and just had the best time. But I at one point they all went for lunch and I just got like a bowl of rice from Docking Bay 7, white rice. And I did start to feel like a new person after I had a little bit of that.
See, over the race weekends, I just destroy everything that comes past me because that's why I'm there. It's just, but yeah, but I mean, I get it. Sometimes you're not hungry after you eat. My thing is like, I get hungry the day after, it's like 24 hours after the event. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what usually happens to me too, which luckily, I would just like to give a shout out. I know Hollywood Studios is a hard place to eat, but Docking Bay 7, I think you need to give it another try. I really like the kids meal. They have a pasta that also comes with broccoli. So at least I feel like I'm being a little healthy. And then you can get white rice. So when we have to eat in Hollywood Studios, that's usually where we go.
I did have, it wasn't bad. I had like a rice thing that had like 2 big chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
It was like a huge couple chicken nuggets. It wasn't bad, but I'm not a healthy eater.
Well,
it is a healthier option, though. I'll give you that. If you're looking for something kind of healthy, Docking Bay 7 is the place to go.
That's yeah. So my friends had so I again kept my curfew. We were going to go to Via Napoli because that's usually what we do before the half marathon. So my parents.
See, that's a better choice. I mean, 100%.
My parents were going to join my husband and I for Via Napoli. But again, I was just feeling really run down. So I am very grateful for those 2-hour cancellations. And I was just thinking, Via Napoli's loud and all the runners were going to be there. And we ended up canceling it and going back to the Lion King section of art and animation.
It worked the day before. I would do the same thing. Like, hey man, I have another PR in me if I eat that meal again. Exactly.
Yeah. So we did that and had like a quiet evening, and I started to feel much better. And then my friends just kept going, and a couple of the highlights that they shared with me was they did the Woody's Backyard Barbecue, and they loved it. And I haven't been there yet, and I know they don't have the big pencil, but they got to ride little stick horses in.
Oh yeah,
it's
not like that they used to have over Wilderness Lodge at Whispering Canyon.
They're probably the same horses.
Probably.
And they closed down so they had a late Oga's Canteen. One of our friends is a huge Star Wars fan. So they had a late Oga's reservation. So they were some of the last people in the park, and they didn't know that the Skyliner stops. So Skylar stops at it stopped at 10:30 that night, and they were out past that. And so they essentially like save buses, and they tell you which bus you're getting on, and they hold all the buses until the last person's out, their park is clear, and then they send them. So that was I think they were all a little tired by that point. So that made the day just a little longer. But I think that's really important for people to know that like you just need to check the last Skyliner ride of the day if you're relying on that.
Good tip. Did they go back and nap at some point? I
mean,
oh yeah, that's oh my god. That is just like when I'm thinking about this, like going to Oga's at the end of the night, if starting the day with a race, and I'm thinking like they were up almost like a long time.
A long time. So, but they all got to sleep in the next day because after the half marathon, we did go to Kona. So that refueled all of us, and it was amazing.
All right, so let's talk about half morning. Sunday is always the big race, the long race of the weekend, and you're coming off a PR, but you got 13.1 in front of you. So how do you get yourself mentally ready, and how did the day unfold?
I cannot believe like this was my 11th Princess, and every year I end up loving this race even more. It is just phenomenal. I mean, and you see some of the same people in the corrals, and so you get to know people, and the energy for that day is always off the charts. Like the team, the announcers bring the energy and everything. It just and the weather was perfect. So it was so fun. I loved it. And this was the first time. So the very first Princess that I ran, my husband did come to the finish line, but by that point, the field was so crowded and the spectator, I didn't even know he was there. And so to me, it wasn't worth him getting up. So ever since then, no one's ever been there. But my dad he's done Dopey like 3 times, and he's done a bunch of other races. And so he wanted to come and spectate. So they rode with me on the bus. They were staying at Pop Century. They rode with me on the bus. They were going to take the monorail to the TTC, and then you monorail to Magic Kingdom to watch on Main Street. And then we were pretty sure they'd have time to get back to the finish to watch me. But what they learned, because we'd never done any of this, is the monorail doesn't start from Epcot until 4:30. And then they hold you at the TTC until 5. And then they let you on to Main Street, which all worked out fine, but just things that they didn't know, and they made friends along the way. But it was so amazing having them there because they got incredible videos of me running at both the finish and at the castle. And it just, I just love that course. And I know people dread mile 10 and 11 with those hills that, you run the on-ramp and then there's all these hills. But when I was running it, the sun was just coming up. And so you have this beautiful view of the property and like the Swan and Dolphin and Epcot, and the sun is just coming up. No one around me was appreciating it as much as I did. So I was like, everyone, look at this.
I never appreciate mile 10 or 11. I don't care what it looks like. I just once I hit 10 or 11, I just want to see 13.1 and a big old thing that says finish.
I'm like, I just wanted people to take in the moment. And so there was 2 bike, like bike medics or whatever. And I was like, you have the best view. Like I was like talking to them, and I think they were kind of humoring me.
The only happy person I've seen around these 20,000 runners.
Yeah. So again, the volunteers were incredible. The entertainment was amazing. The choir there at the end, they were
love the choir.
Rocking it. All 3 races. Last year I hit them almost, I think all 3 of the races, again, they were like on break, and so they were there and cheering, but they weren't singing. But this year I got them, and I was back and forth with the 145 pace group the entire race. And I loved that because like they were giving cues to people. So I had like this thing to sort of key off of. It was just so much fun.
Yeah. If you can sit in with a pace group where, like, okay, they're pushing you, like you see the pace and like, that, it's a slightly uncomfortable, but if I can hang with them, I can get a really good time. That's going to be something I'm proud of. Like I always see them and I'm like, if I can just hold on and not lose that post, like for a little while, and you get to mile 8, mile 9, you're like, I'm not going to lose that post. I'm staying with them for the next 4 miles, whether it kills me or not. They are nice to be out there to the pacers. If you lose them, you just try to hang with the next guy that comes up behind you. And shout out to the pacing groups. We appreciate you being out there. Let me ask you this though. Okay. So you're out there, half marathon, you're hanging on, you're doing great. what advice would you give somebody though that is tackling this distance for the first time out there? Because again, Sunday's a little bit different. You know, you're out there for a couple of hours, sometimes 3-4 hours for folks that are running this for the first time. You're obviously flying. And also, one other thing I want to mention, you know, you said your dad was out there, your husband, seeing you at various places throughout the course. Let me just say that is so just showing your love for your runner, because it is not easy to get around to see your runner in various places on the course. You might say, oh, it's so easy to go from Epcot to Main Street back to, you know, there's places like you can see. One of the places I recommend watching your runner is at Epcot, but where the buses pick you up at Epcot before the finish, because it's less crowded and you can have more of an intimate experience with your runner right before they go into Epcot. But it's hard to get around. I mean, even like riding the monorail, like you say, it doesn't run just continuously. You got to wait, like you said, to get held. And so and you got to get up and go to the, you know, race at 2:30 in the morning with your runner. I mean, it's a huge commitment from your, you know, support team. So shout out to the folks who do that, like your dad and your husband. If anybody has that, it's a real commitment. It's awesome, you know, example of love for your runner. But what would you say to people that are thinking about doing this as we kind of talk, you know, kind of wrap up the running portion? Give some advice, because you're so experienced at this.
Yeah, Disney is like the best. I think the best place that you can do any of this. My advice is always to do the training and have the confidence that you can do this, but then just soak it up. I know I just went on and on about how I wanted a PR and everything, but this is the 11th time I've, you know, done it. But just really appreciating all the work that go and being grateful. That's what I find, like when it's really hard, I find just like having a grateful attitude of appreciating the sunrise, appreciating the people around me, cheering someone else on really boosts you up. And so if you're feeling down, it sounds counterintuitive, but sort of say something positive to someone else. Like, I like your outfit. You're looking strong today. Thanks for being here to the volunteers. I guarantee you will have a new pep in your step, and just really knowing what works for you. So just putting in some training, even if it's walking or, you know, sleep, that's just as important too. Just believing that you can do it, and then sign up for it, because it's totally worth it.
That's the hardest part sometimes. Honestly, for like challenges. I mean,
yeah.
No, I love, you know, I've never heard anybody verbalize that on the course. And I need to think about this myself. I've never heard this, because this is something I'm going to take to heart. That's why I love doing this show. I learn something every Monday on these podcasts. Still doing the show for 16 years almost in a couple of weeks here. And I love this because I learn that is such a great piece of advice. Just being grateful when you're on the course and you're struggling, because as runners, we all struggle, no matter how many races we've done, no matter how many times miles we put in training and so forth. I mean, when I hit mile 9, I donk every single time. Mile 11 is so hard for me. Mile 6 is always so hard for me. But if I just think about how grateful I am to be out there, and I try to give some positive reinforcement to a runner next to me or a volunteer, when you do that verbally, you just can't help but kind of pick yourself up at the same time. I never even thought about that, but that is so true.
Yeah. And if you can't talk, just like a little clap or something, real, like it makes a difference.
I'm going to do that. I've never thought about that, but I like it. Okay. So the rest of the day, you finish the 13, you've got all your challenge medals, clang, 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 and you're doing all that stuff. I'm sure you're getting pictures, but what do you do the rest of the day to kind of celebrate? You got yoga coming up. But say, did yoga at the end, which I'll talk about in a second, but how do you kind of finish out the parks here at the end?
So we did Kona for breakfast, mostly so we can park also at get to Magic Kingdom. And so that's what we did that day. Most people were leaving that day. One friend and another set, so 3 did Genie Plus at Magic Kingdom that day. And I just didn't know if I could commit to that. So we took it easy. We all had a Tron Lightning Lane. Somebody was good enough to get that, and it came up while we were at breakfast. So we just take our receipt, had no problems getting on for Tron. And then we did easy, like People Mover, some shows and things like that. So, and then throughout the day, people just kept leaving. And then I was pretty tired. So we ended up back kind of early again, because I had yoga the next day.
You also had Geyser Point though, right? For dinner?
Oh yeah. That's another thing we love doing is Geyser Point. So that was just my husband and I, we went to Geyser Point. We love sitting at the bar there, again, out on the water. and the food is so good. And we made a nice couple friend that was like catty corner to us. Like we were on the corners, and they gave us all kinds of cruising tips and things.
Nice.
So it was a great conversation.
Runners and cruisers like to share tips.
Yes. Yeah. I was just like, we ordered a bowl of fries and like crab cakes and wings. And Michael was talking to the other couple, and I downed the bowl of fries. Like he's like, were any of those for me? And I said, nope.
Yeah, that's my wife. Like she turns around like, didn't we just have wings here? I was like, sorry, man. I thought you
like he kept talking. I just kept eating.
You had your chance.
Yeah.
Waiter, can we get another order of wings? It's always my thing. Okay, so again, if you don't know, sometimes Run Disney's added this probably over the last couple of years, this sunrise or surprise, I think it's sunrise yoga. And I wouldn't know because I'm like the Tin Man. If I ever did this, it'd be the world's funniest thing.
That's how I describe myself. I say I'm a Tin Man too.
I think it's funny that runners do yoga in general, because runners generally are the most inflexible people in the world. So I might like to come see this, but I would be the worst of the worst. They would just kick me out immediately. But so they did it at the end, because usually it's the kickoff to the weekend. This was at the end, which kind of, you said, makes more sense because you want to stretch after an event. But how did that go for you?
Yeah, so this was my first time doing it. When it was before, I was just not too interested in doing it. I was worried about like an injury or another early morning. So this, I learned a lot. They give you a lot of good information, so it's important to read those emails because this is a newer event. But essentially, you had to be at the Ticket and Transportation Center for check-in at 4 a.m. And everyone had to be there. And the monorail's not running. It was all bus service. So even if you were at some of those close ones, like you had to get to the Ticket and Transportation Center. And so I ended up driving because we had a rental car, because I thought to myself, oh, I'll get back earlier because I won't have to wait on a bus. But I learned that wasn't the case. So essentially, everyone has to be at Ticket and Transportation Center by 4 a.m. to check in. You have a check-in pass, you get a wristband, and then everyone gets ferried over at the same time. And then they're really smart because the mats are all laid out, and it could just be a free-for-all. So they take you in groups of 50 so that you can find your place on the mat. And they have the two main instructors up by the castle, and then they have scattered other instructors closer by that you can see a little bit better. And Cinderella greeted us when we got there, and then it was amazing.
Well, those pictures always look so cool on Instagram, right? Like with all the mats and the little layout there in front of Cinderella Castle. How many people? How many mats?
1,700 is what they told us.
1,700?
Yeah, they told us 1,700.
I was going to guess it was like 200.
That's what I thought too.
Wow, 1,700. Are you kidding?
That's because we asked, and I was shocked that they fit all of us in there. I thought some of us were going to be like in Adventureland.
That's crazy. I would have guessed 200, like from the pictures.
Yeah.
That's why. And Carissa's up there, right? Kind of. She. I don't know if she's like an instructor or she just kind of like a.
She was just kind of welcoming. I don't know if she went somewhere else and did it, but the part that because I was kind of off to the left. I was about equal with the partner statue, but off to the left. So it was a great view. And they did little they had the princesses come out, little fireworks show at the end. And then you get to keep the yoga mat. But then when you left, the buses were where they normally were. So you could have taken a bus back, and then the people who drove were ferry. And I debated, like I called my husband to be like, should I just leave the car? Because I was like in the front row of Zurg. So I was like, do we just leave the car here and end there? Because we're going to end in Magic Kingdom. But I drove back. But so I got back at exactly the same time as the buses did.
So real quick about the yoga thing, because I'm never going to do it probably, because again, it'd be the world's funniest thing. But like how aggressive is it? Like what, and how long does it last? Like real quick, like 1 minute review of the experience of the yoga.
It's about 50 minutes total of like yoga time. It is entry level. Like they go over everything. And I think people that are more advanced would know how to make it more advanced for themselves, but it was very gentle. It was almost more meditative. But we did get a good stretch. The only thing I would say is really do watch the weather. I mean, I had a hoodie on and leggings and gloves, and I was still very cold, and in fact shivered for like the hour afterwards too, until I got like a warm drink, because you're not moving as much as you do when you run. And that probably won't be the case for every yoga, but it was 45 at the start, and so it was very cold. And then the other advice that I had seen online is to bring like a towel or something, because they get dew on the mats, and so wiping that down is really helpful. So you're not wet and cold.
Plus, you're from Chicago. If you're cold at 45, man, everybody's, most people are going to be cold.
Yeah.
Just saying,
for
you're
sure.
from a cold place. All right. So you finish that up, you get back, you're there for Monday and Tuesday. Obviously, you came home. We're recording this on Wednesday, so you just got back yesterday. But you get to have some fun now. The running's done. You're going to have some time in the parks. It's all behind you. So give us the theme park kind of fun here in the last 5 to 10 minutes here.
So the only people remaining were my husband, Michael, and I, and our friend, John, who is a big, big Star Wars fan. And we love soaking up the atmosphere and stuff. So he was playing the data pad thing. I don't even know this stuff. I like Star Wars casually, but he was unlocking all kinds of stuff and like achieved all kinds of levels. And I think he became a major or something, to the point where he had reached the level where sometimes they'll send the stormtroopers out and like detain you. They didn't. But we were like waiting for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we were hoping that would happen, but it didn't. So he spent forever in there. We rope dropped Rise of the Resistance. Awesome experience. He'd done all of this before, but it was just so fun to do it with him. I kind of started wearing down. We had Genie Plus this day, but our plan was we would get I think we got Mickey and Minnie's, and then we were going to stack Magic Kingdom in the evening. So after we did Mickey and Minnie's and we grabbed a quick lunch, I went back and napped, and they did more Star Wars, but then they went to Epcot and they did Test Track Single Rider and I think Spaceship Earth. And then they got one of the, I don't even know how to say it, but the Baumkuchen cakes.
It's why you go to Florida right there, the Baumkuchen.
Yeah.
I'm saying it right. That's just how I say it. But yeah.
So then we got that for later. So that was awesome. So we carried that. And then we all met at Magic Kingdom and we did Space Mountain, which I'd never done before. I'm not much of a thrill person, but my friend really wanted to do it. And so I was like, I can do it. And then we did it. And I had made it much worse in my head.
It was 35 miles an hour. It's not super fast, but yeah.
Yeah. So that was super fun. Then we went to Jungle Cruise because these were all Genie Plus. And I cannot recommend enough doing Jungle Cruise because I love puns. Okay. And then going to Skipper Canteen to eat.
It's a double play right there. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And the food was so good. And everyone said that, not just me for having run a half marathon that day. It was so good. Or I guess the day before. And then we did Big Thunder Mountain, Pirates, PhilharMagic. The Monsters Inc. laugh floor at the end of the night was incredible. It was so fun. And he had never done Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So we got in line while the fireworks were still going on. And we had less than a 20-minute wait.
That's a miracle right there. Yeah. That's really, but it sounds like, you guys really did it right though. You got to do a ton of attractions, have some good snacks, have a great sit down meal. Stack the Genie Plus. He didn't have long waits. What a great way to kind of wrap it. I know you had a little bit of time on Tuesday there before you headed back to Chicago, but there's something to be said about that last night, right? Yeah. You want that last night to be full of there's something, I think a lot of our, people listening today, that last night in the parks, you want to almost be frantic. You know what I'm saying? You want to feel like you're getting your money's worth. You got to get in as many great Disney experiences as possible. And that's exactly this is exactly what my last night always sounds like. I got to get one more ride, one more thing. And that's kind of the best of the best thing here.
For sure. But it always is nice. We always know when our next trip is. I really appreciate that too. So I don't feel sad when we leave.
So how'd you close out your last day? Because you guys flying home, but you still did something that morning.
Yeah, so we learned while we were at Skipper Canteen that because we previously had a Steakhouse 71 breakfast reservation for the next day so we could park at Contemporary, walk over to Magic Kingdom because I usually like to wave goodbye to the castle. But we learned that our friend had never been to Animal Kingdom. And so we thought we have to take him there for at least a little bit. And so we really were just going to hit a couple of the highlights. We didn't have much time. And plus we wanted to sleep in. We had to pack up the room and everything. So we did the safari, and then we did buy an individual lightning lane for Avatar, the Flight of Passage. And so that was really fun. And then I think we did Tough to Be a Bug and then went to the airport.
And you bugged out of there.
Yeah.
So besides all this, we talked about so much today and it's been so much fun. I appreciate it, Marci, because it's I didn't get to go. So I just got to virtually go here for the last, 50 minutes or so. But give me real quick, besides the PR, obviously that's gonna be the highlight of the trip, and also spending time with your friends. Is there one more kind of little nugget that you're going to remember this weekend for that maybe we didn't mention? Because I always like to, look back on trips and they always kind of have one little thing that was, maybe Like when we were at Disneyland, like I lost my wedding ring for like an hour. I couldn't believe it. Like we were all scrambling over at us, the Jumper Smokehouse or whatever the place in DCA, the little counter service place. Like I thought I left it back in the hotel room. It fell off, but I was freaking out. Like I'll never forget that trip from that moment. It wasn't a positive one, but I will never ever forget that trip because of that. Was there anything like this is going to stick with you besides the PR for this trip?
Well, I know we talked about it, and Michael and I go so often, the two of us, and we have great time and we have kind of our routines. But honestly, the waiting in line with our friends, because many of them have kids, and so we just got to have these uninterrupted conversations and catch up. And we all went to undergrad together. And so it was just like being in one of my favorite places on one of my favorite weekends of the whole year with some of my favorite people was really and truly incredible. And I feel like that's what I'm going to take away from this particular weekend. And my mom and dad being at Main Street and making it to the finish, like all those people there, like touched, just being excited and touching my experience in different ways is just really special.
That's what I love, though. It's about being with your friends, with your family at the place you love. And, I know that you guys get to go quite often, and that's really special because you guys get to just keep building those memories together and with friends and family each time, which is super cool. So Marci, again, congratulations on the PR, and thanks for taking the time today to take us down to Walt Disney World. Just a recent trip last weekend, and can't wait to talk to you again with your upcoming adventures.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Don't forget, our show is always brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. And right now we are booking and very busy. We want to help you with 2025 Walt Disney World packages. That's right. And guess what? You can get, now this is not till 2025, so don't get your trunks on yet. I know everybody's getting excited, your swimsuits, but for 2025, you get to visit the water parks free, complimentary on that arrival day. So that's a little perk that's coming back. So we want to help you plan that Walt Disney World vacation for 2025. Of course, we can still do 2024 right now. I mean, it is only March. We got plenty of time left there. We could also talk about Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line Adventures by Disney, but we are standing by to help you plan an amazing Walt Disney World vacation for no additional cost to you with lots of great booking bonuses. Extra booking bonuses right now for the 2025 packages. So check them out today over at themagicforless.com. Please also use our Amazon affiliate link. It's beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. And thank you sincerely to our patrons. You guys make our show possible. We couldn't do it without you. And our patrons get a bonus show every week called Mike in the Midwest. This past week, it was all about me discovering a place called Brahms Ice Cream and Hamburgers down in Springfield, Missouri. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And Whataburger down in Springfield, and Buc-ee's. I know everybody knows about Buc-ee's. I'd never been to one. It was a beautiful sight to see 100 gas pumps all lined up. I couldn't believe it, and I had to buy a hoodie that had a big beaver on it. It was wild. So if you want to hear a show that's not about Disney, it's not really about anything, it's called Mike in the Midwest, coming over patreon.com/BRGuestPodcast. We'll have a live show this Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. You can call in. That's our call-in show. So we want to hear from you. All the places, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. Give us a call there and follow me on the social media at Be Our Guest Mike. All right, we're going to jump out of here. We'll be back again on Wednesday with more of your listener questions. But until then, for Marci up in the Windy City, I'm Mike here in Missouri. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. All righty. Awesome.
That was great. Thank you.
44. You kidding? Holy smokes. You were flying.
It was
unbelievable. For Disney too, because those courses are not like made for speed.
Yeah. The 10K is not bad, but yeah, it was a good day.
Boardwalk is so slick. Like that worries me because like in the morning, even if it didn't rain or anything, like it can be like dewy.
Yeah,
I'm getting old and I'm worried I'm going to fall because I fell at Disneyland during the half and I still got a big old scab on my knee.
I warned all my friends about the boardwalk for sure.
Oh man. So
I think I want to do wine and dine. Like I think I want to do that this fall. I've never done it and registration's in like 12 days. So
I mean, to me, wine and dine was better when it was at night, but it's still cool. The thing is that weekend is so crowded. Like as far as the parks, and here's my problem with wine and this would not affect you. It's during football season. Like I cannot, and it's always during like a weekend where there's always huge games. Like either for the high school team, for Mizzou, like it's a rivalry weekend. It's just, I've gone down there and run the 5K and changed my flight and come home after the 5K because there's too big of football games. And I've just not run the other races. I've got my shirts and come home.
That would not affect me. But that half marathon course looks awesome.
Yeah, it's not bad. Now
you hit World Showcase, Boardwalk, a lot of Hollywood studios, kind of go around Blizzard Beach, and then you see Coronado. Like, it looks really cool.
And I want to say I ran a pretty decent time on that course too. 1 year. 1 year I was not, I think 2015 I was sick again, but I didn't do well. But man, Disneyland though, I get back out to Disneyland if you can.
Yes, that weather was perfect. I hope, well, I'll definitely be out there in 2026, not for a race, but my work's conference is out there and it's at the convention center right across the street. So nice. I'll sure be there then. But I loved those races there, the no humidity and well, we got lucky though, because like the weekend after we were there, like holy smokes, that's when like that big old storm came in or whatever, that just like rain nonstop. We got so lucky because they had that monsoon or whatever that happened. I was like, oh man, because everyone's like, oh, you don't have to worry about rain out there. It never rains in Disneyland. But then it rained for like 10 days in a row after we left. I was like, man, dodge that bullet, because we got soaked during the marathon at Walt Disney World. That was brutal.
Miserable. Anyway. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. Tell Michael I said hello. I know you probably have a million things because you just got back. I remember those days.
Well, you're going to be hearing from us for probably Wine and Dine for probably 2025.
I appreciate you all so much. I really do. And I try to get back to you as quick as I can every single time. So sometimes it just takes long because I got to wait on hold. But I'll hustle as best I can.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike.
Stay safe up there. I'll talk to you soon. If you see Paige, I said hey.
I will.
See you later. Bye.